You're digging for a house. You're digging to build something. You're working on a construction site. Then all of a sudden, you come across what looks to be a coin. Fair enough, you pick it up. After you pick it up and you dust it off because it looks like it's been underground for God knows how long, you brush it off and you notice, okay, it's got an eagle. I remember in history class, kind of looks like the Nazi eagle, okay. You flip it around. It's got the SS symbol with the swastika. You go, holy crap, this is a Nazi coin. All right. You then brush it off even more. What do you realize after that? The year that's engraved, not like it's been written on with some Sharpie marker, but the year that's been engraved on this coin is the year 2039. But hold on. What year are we in right now? So that's exactly what this episode's all about. And not just once this occurred, but twice to two separate people who've never met on two separate occasions. One time in Mexico and then one time in Canada in Nova Scotia. So there's no correlation. That checks out. Let's start with the Mexico one first. So according to thedailystar.co.uk, Diego Aviles claims he discovered the piece of metal while working on a construction site. And after he examined it, he was left shocked. On the bottom of the item, the numbers 2039 were displayed, suggesting it was from more than 20 years into the future. And just above that, the Reichsadler Nazi Party symbol can be observed below the words Nueva Alemania, which translates to New Germany. The flip side, the other side of the coin, reads Allies in einer Nation, meaning all in one nation. It was originally shared by the man on his YouTube page on February 6th, but it has picked up popularity after being shared on popular pages such as the Hidden Underbelly 2.0 and channels like this. Now, end quote, by the way. Now, was this from an alternate universe or a parallel universe or an alternate timeline? Okay, I am not a huge historian. I know a decent amount about my history, but I'm sure there are some of you listening or watching that certainly know more than I do. Let's think about it like this. Let's think if the Nazis had in fact won the war, World War II, what would there be after that? You would have full Nazi domination of most, if not all, of the planet, essentially. Would probably say something like that, all nations in one, everything coming together. The 1,000-year Reich, as they spoke about. The question then becomes, okay, assuming this coin is legitimate and real, let's say there was some type of timeline alteration that some experiment caused this to occur. That's an interesting question because the U.S. has experimented, along with CERN, in essentially smashing particles together and doing all different types of things, right? Now, again, I'm not trying to blame this on CERN. I'm just trying to open your mind to show that it may actually not have been something connected to UFOs or aliens. As a matter of fact, it may be something that we're doing here on this planet that either a small group of people know what they're doing or a small group of people are experimenting with crap they have no idea what they're messing with. Essentially, that's what's going on. That's what seems to be the big picture here. Now, this was found by a gentleman, just a working guy in Mexico, and then he put it on his YouTube channel, and it's starting to grow in popularity. But then we have another guy who was just simply renovating his house in Nova Scotia and found the same coin, the same thing. And ironically enough, it's been covered on CBC. which is interesting because usually these things immediately are covered up. But again, this is this coin doesn't provide evidence that can link to anybody or anything. So that's why I'd probably imagine there is no form of cover up. It's kind of just like if you're someone that knows the truth about these coins or knows that there's been some type of altered timeline, you're probably saying to everybody else, or to the people beneath you that are asking if they should make this footage go away or take this coin away from these people, you'd probably say, no, let them have it. Let them come up with all kinds of quote unquote wacko conspiracies to kind of just simply disprove further what we're doing doesn't exist on paper. That's essentially the way I would imagine it, because the coin, when you look at it from a detective's point of view, it doesn't really lead back to a person, doesn't really lead back to any place. So, I mean, at the end of the day, you kind of just let it happen. Now, what's interesting enough is that a lot of people have experienced things like the Mandela effect, where they remember things happening differently. And I've done an episode on this, and many people believe the proposal and the theory that CERN is behind this because they're experimenting with things that they don't know. Therefore, it's creating a possible ripple in our reality. With that being said, I don't want to just put this all on CERN. This could have been from another experiment. This could have been from some type of harmless experiment that caused a ripple in the space-time continuum within this reality. Okay, so the possibilities of how this occurred are endless, but it just kind of makes you think, what would happen if the Nazis had won the war, right? Would there have been more of a disclosure or an acknowledgement of these types of things or these types of technologies? That's one question. Your mind can race into so many different directions. It's not even funny. What I want to do here, though, is just showcase the pictures and showcase the evidence that's been presented. Because ultimately, at least at the current time in which I'm recording this episode, nobody can disprove this. I mean, the design of the coin is very similar to that of what was done back in the 30s and 40s before the end of the Second World War. And people have been known to collect Nazi coins. And so anyone who would have been able to collect the Nazi coins with dates that dates back to the 30s and 40s, actual coins made at least in this reality, would come forward and say that this coin was fake, but nobody has. And so this story has garnered enough attention, clearly, for some historian or some type of even semi-expert to come forward and explain this, but, nobody can. Now, the next thing is very interesting because it subscribes to the idea that this may have sparked some type of possibility that it might not actually be an alternate dimension or an alternate reality, but it may have been purposefully created back in the day in order to kind of just solidify the Nazis' regime through the use of propaganda and psychological confidence. I don't think that's the case. Why the year 2039? I have no idea. I don't think that's the case. Believe it or not, I'd rather subscribe to the idea of there being an alternate reality or some type of altered timeline, because people remember certain instances. For example, Nelson Mandela dying. People remember him not dying. 9/11, people remember that not happening, ironically. There are hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people that remember major world events very differently, which could signify that there are experiments going on within top-level government facilities that affect these things. Now, maybe they know that while they're experimenting, there's a certain line they cannot cross, because then it would actually transfer us into, say, another reality of sorts or create some type of extremely damaging ripple effect, but ultimately we don't know. What I do want to go next to is the actual Nova Scotia story, because the way this was found is a little more detailed and interesting. So, again, this is according to cbc.ca. Nazi Germany coin found during CFB Greenwood home demolition. Once I got up to the light, I noticed it had an eagle and a swastika on it, says James Cooper. He then later realized that it had the 2039 year on it. This coin is much more dirtier than the one found in Mexico, but again, nonetheless, it's still a Nazi coin. Why Mexico? Why Nova Scotia? We don't know. Could the coin have been there for hundreds, if not thousands of years? Probably not, because the way that it's been predated and the way that it looks seems like it's approximately, again, made, give or take, 80, 90, 100 years ago, during the time when the Nazis were on their rise and on the ascension of power, right? And so it only begs the question that maybe current governments are not experimenting with these things because they know that they would cause some type of ripple in our reality. It could be that the Nazis were experimenting with this. Could the Nazis have, a matter of fact, not even created a ripple or a parallel universe that coincides with ours or merged with ours? It may in fact be the case that the Nazis were experimenting with time travel and were traveling to and from different places. And so this coin could have been placed, they could have traveled anywhere post World War II, and they would have been able to place a coin somewhere. Again, how it gets underground is just the natural process of life. Objects move, structures change, things move and just evolve naturally and things like this. As to why it would be buried in a certain spot, that kind of doesn't really make sense to me. But with all the eyewitness accounts of people claiming to have seen time travelers and things like this, it does bring up the theory, or at least the subscription to the ideology, that there is a so-called, I guess you could say, hidden world where there are constant time travelers coming and going in order to adjust and create some type of dominance within the government structures that still want to remain in power today. Okay, so kind of like if you watch the Netflix show Umbrella Academy, how people keep coming back and forth. There are certain agents that are, I guess you could say, time traveler agents that are responsible for these types of things, to go to and from different realities and different dimensions and universes to maintain a certain order or balance in the world. It's certainly something I wouldn't rule out, to be honest with you guys. But again, the possibilities are endless. And the problem is that because of the fact that this coin doesn't link back to anyone or anything or any event or any place, the problem is that, I mean, the good thing is that we get to see this as evidence, because the people trying to cover things up probably let this one slide and let it go. But the unfortunate thing is that we can extrapolate and we can interpret as much as we like ultimately, because I have done hours of research into this and I've found almost nothing. So it's not to say there's a cover-up. It's just to say that the gentleman separately who found these coins could not substantiate anything more than that. Again, you got a Mexican guy doing construction at his job, probably on a job site, and he found it. Then you have another gentleman on the other side of the world, or the other side of the continent, doing demolition of a house. So these are clearly things that will not justify an archaeological dig because it's simply a coin, but it makes you think about how they got there. Again, science is proving more and more that teleportation and things like this and time travel may indeed be possible. I did an episode a couple months back in the old studio, the old room I used to record in, where I talked about how some people, if my memory serves me correct, in Texas have been trying to find proof of an alternate reality or some type of other dimension, and they actually did find proof in certain aspects. I believe it was neutrons or photons, something along the line, disappeared and didn't come back when they were supposed to never even disappear according to their mathematical calculations. So there's proof like that. The question is, does something like that affect the ripple within the space-time continuum? I think the space-time continuum is something extremely complex, because when you know that the top minds on this planet at least cannot figure out what's going on there, it only leaves everything open to interpretation. So I'd rather simply present the evidence to you guys and let you guys think for yourselves and see what is going on there. So please let me know what you guys think, because it's certainly a very interesting thing. You look at the coin and you see the year 2039. And so I think that according to many different scientific theories, it's very possible that there are alternate timelines or realities. I think the science is more in favor of that than it is against it. And so this would just be one form of evidence or substantive proof that either a timeline has subsequently intertwined or intermeshed with ours, or this was artificially done in the sense that someone or a group of people understood how to jump between different realities or different parallel universes, if you want to call it. So again, I don't want to keep going on and on, because we can just we can connect things that don't even connect really, especially with such little evidence. But let me know what you guys think, and we will catch you next time. Thank you.